Let's talk now about narrative through scenarios and storyboards. And let's pick up where we left off. Previously, we've conducted a service artifact audit, service slices, and a customer journey map. And all of this was intended for us to create what's called tacit or implicit understanding and knowledge of a service. Now we're going to create something called narrative. And we're going to develop a story of the future where all of the problems we've identified have been fixed. In many ways, this is an optimistic vision of the future. It's one where we can start to dream a new idea into existence so that we could really start to rally behind it and start to unpack it and start to design it. Once we have a view of the service experience in totality, we can design these scenarios to show improvement to the service. Our intention is to translate these theoretical constructs like a journey map or a service slice into real and tangible artifacts. And so I want you to think back to that customer journey map and to those service slices and really focus on frustrations and disconnects. The artifacts we've created identify those problems, and since our goal is to fix the problems, we should go look at those, analyze them, identify the problems, and really consider them in the context of value and service expectations. Our method here is going to be to tell stories. And it seems very easy to tell a story, and in fact it is. We're going to write scenarios that describe how a person will experience a given story. We're going to create something called a hero flow. And in a hero flow, everything goes well. There's no problems, there's no frustrations, everything works according to plan. Let's look at frustrations and disconnects we identified during the tattoo shop experience. The customer was anxious. The customer had to wait for the tattoo artist. And so as a result of looking at these frustrations and disconnects, we can write scenarios that describe a new experience that fixes and addresses the frustration. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to read this. Take a look at the different touch points that we've added, because the scenario has actually changed the service. We've added 3 new touch points. The first is a new script for the clerk, the front desk assistant, so that she doesn't go out of the way to make the customer feel nervous, so that she tries to empathize with them and minimize their feelings of anxiety. The next new touch point is a collaborative art discovery process where Jim can sit next to the customer and they can work through them together in order to understand what design appeals and what reflects the intent. The third new touch point is an iPad with video, so that the customer can actually look through videos that explain the process while they're waiting for that tattoo artist to come help them. Once you've written the scenario, let's sketch it in a comic book style, and that comic book is going to bring to life the various service touch points. Sketch it in order to highlight the keys, and underneath each sketch, add the scenario and add the new revised touch points. And again, feel free to pause the video to take a look at this in more detail. What you see here are very crude representations at what's called a low fidelity of what's happening in the story. You'll see that we've included scenes, meaning the environment, the context, things that are happening, and screens, literally what's showing up on the iPad when the 2 people are working through it together. You'll also see that we've been able to envision and visualize the collaborative nature of the new process. You can see the 2 people sitting next to each other. And so each of the elements that's in each of the squares has been chosen on purpose in order to represent how the service experience is changing as a result of these new touch points being introduced. Why are we doing this? Why are we starting to tell that vision of the future? By creating a narrative, we paint a picture of new touch points that can be used to create a service experience. And we're developing a vision of the future that can be used to drive alignment. People could start to rally around our new vision so that we can anchor these ideas in an approachable fashion. And so let's reflect on narrative a little bit. We've progressed now through a process of cataloging our artifacts, developing those touch points through service slices, identifying time and mapping it on a customer journey map, and now we've created scenarios and storyboards. And all of this is climbing the service stairway on our way to a value promise. Once we have a view of the service experience in totality, we can write these scenarios in order to show improvements to the service. And so for your project, I'd like you to tell some stories. I'd like you to work backwards, looking at all of the problems and frustrations and disconnects you've identified through all of the artifacts we've created so far, and I want you to create some new scenarios. Using your customer journey map, identify places where new or revised touch points can improve the experience. Write down scenarios, and I typically write these by hand so that I can really spend time thinking about and crafting each word. And then using 11 by 17 inch paper, draw boxes approximately 4 inch square that will represent each frame in your comic strip. Begin to sketch the storyboard, capturing one idea per square, and don't worry about the fidelity of your drawing. I hear a lot of times people saying, I can't draw, I'm not good at drawing. I bet you are, because I bet you can draw stick figures. And at this point, stick figures are probably just fine. You can draw representations of people, and when you draw digital artifacts, like I did with an iPad there, you can zoom in on it so that the square represents the entire face of the screen. Include scenes too, the environment and the context of the service, and all of the touchpoint modules that somebody might interact with. Creating scenarios and storyboards is fun because literally you're telling stories. It's something that's very human and very approachable. Get to that homework. I'm excited to see what you come up with.